Welcome to Plus Size Stories, Episode 8. Today we speak with Miss Kirsten. She's a 36-year-old mother from Pennsylvania, and I think you're really going to enjoy her story, where she tells about her struggles with weight, but also dealing with maintenance and what that means. On to the episode. And welcome to the next episode of Plus Size Stories. Today we speak with Kirsten, who's a stay-at-home mom, self-employed coach. You say cat-tastic wonders, craft business, and somatic journey lifestyle coaching. I don't know what any of that really means yet, but I'm sure we'll find out. She's from Pennsylvania, and we're going to talk about her whole weight loss journey. And Kirsten, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate being here. This is the first time I've ever been interviewed for this type of journey.
Ooh.
So it's a real treat all around.
Well, I think that everybody's on their own journey, right? And so I think everybody's got a story. It's just we don't always hear it. So so I really appreciate you being here. I can't wait to. I know you a little bit, but not to the point that just a tiny little bit. So, but I think everybody will be interested to learn a little bit more about you. So, tell me your story. Where'd you grow up? How'd you grow up? And when did you?
The things, all the secrets,
all the things.
Well, I am actually the only one in my family that's not born in Pennsylvania.
Oh.
I was born in Virginia, but I have no memory of Virginia. We moved back up to Pennsylvania when I was 11 months old, and I've been in PA ever since, and I'm now 36. Two different areas, but still Pennsylvania regardless.
Right.
Never left this coast. Have only traveled a little bit in the surrounding areas of my state, so I like to say I live under a rock within a paper bag and can get lost easily.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm oldest of three.
Okay.
My sister and I are like 18 months apart, and then there's like a 7-year gap for my brother and myself.
Sounds very similar to my family. My brother and I are 2 years apart, and then we've got an 8-year gap with our little sister. Yeah.
Yeah, I was the miracle blessings. My parents were told it'd be very hard, basically impossible to have kids. And then my sister was the surprise, and my brother was the shock. But yeah, so grew up together, parents together. Everything seemed like relatively good growing up.
Right.
I remember when I was 9 years old, I was 90 pounds. I only remember this because of the nines.
Yep.
And I was always a little bit on like the chunkier side, but never like a big issue, though I've always had comments growing up about being a bit heavier, or you want to eat that, or you're going to eat that much.
Yep.
And lots of comments that didn't really help with the self-esteem. So I basically had a no to low self-esteem my whole life.
Great.
And I got to the point of being insecure where I would not feel comfortable eating around others or making food around others, especially if they were males more than females. Or I would be just very, very nervous and very particular about what I selected if I was around other people or family gatherings and things. Just because I felt like everyone was watching me, though obviously no one was watching me. They were busy watching everything else.
Right.
But you feel like the spotlight is on you.
Yep.
For every little thing you do or don't do. And got to early teens, still putting a bit more fluff each year as the time passes. And initially figured, okay, it's just because of medication, because I grew up with exercise-induced asthma. So I wasn't always very active because I kind of liked breathing.
Right.
And being active made it hard to breathe. And I was on steroids for it. And I remember by the time I got to 16, 17 years old was when I finally graduated out of being overweight and entered into the world of obesity.
Yeah.
And I basically lived there ever since until now.
Yep. Yeah.
By the time I graduate, like I was, like I said, 16, 17, I was about like 160-ish. Within a couple of years, I graduated when I was 19 years old from high school, and I was 221 at that point. I did go through a couple of different types of like programs, if you will, but nothing major. I didn't do a bunch of like the quick fixes or the yo-yo dieting that others typically do. I pretty much, okay, yeah, I am the person. I used to say I was the person with the three big B's. I had the big boobs, the big belly, and the big butt, and that just wasn't a change.
Right.
And I kind of accepted it by default, even though I wasn't really happy about it. I even let myself believe it didn't really bother me, though it did bother me. I was in a program called TOPS, Take Off Pounds Sensibly. And it seemed like a good group, a good program at first. It went over what I now call the boring basics. And it was just each week we would have a type of thing we wanted to focus on. Say it was, okay, this week you want to get 8 glasses of water as your good thing you're working for.
Right.
And then each week there was a thing we were trying to not do. So don't go out to eat this week, or don't get fast food this week, or don't have chocolate this. I pick a thing to aim for and a thing to avoid, basically.
Yep.
At least that's how I recall it.
Well, and that was pretty typical, I'm sure. I mean, it still is, avoid these things. Yeah.
Yep. And like this was back in like early 2000, like 2006, 2007 window. And like I said, I was about 19 going on 20. There was someone else that was like in their 30s. Everyone else was at least 40s, 50s or older in this grouping. It was a small little group. And they would all seem like they would get along and chit chat. And I felt like an outsider for being so much younger than they were. And it didn't really feel like it was like a set program for weight loss. It was just more of a, here's a group where we can make ourselves feel good about ourselves. Right. And we might get some progress, but there's nothing against you if you do or don't make progress.
Right.
And then time constraints and stuff with work came up, so I stopped going there. Bounced about a bit with school and work. I used to work in retail in a mall. So I was always going from classes at our local community college to being on my feet at the store in the mall that I was working at the time. So I was kind of busy, but I never really viewed myself as active.
Right.
And eating, I never really thought I ate bad. Like I felt like there could be some improvements, but overall I didn't view myself as having an issue with a lot of junk food or only healthy or like one extreme or the other. I felt like I was balanced.
Okay.
But I had the rosy colored glasses that I didn't let myself see. I actually had issues with emotional eating and binge eating, where I would either overfeed my emotions or I would starve my emotions.
Right.
And I would go from one extreme to the next. Or whenever I would eat, I would sometimes just forget to eat during the day.
Right.
And only eat like one time, maybe 2 times, but they would be like 2,000 plus calorie meal. And I never really got the concept. Like I knew nutrition facts were on the back of packages, and they meant content stuff about the food, but that was about it. I never really understood this whole how many calories something has versus how many you should have.
Right.
It was just, okay, yeah, this stuff has numbers on it, and it can make it look like it's a healthier food or a not so healthy food.
And it might be.
But whatever.
Right. Yeah, but it doesn't have personal nutritional information on the back of it. Right.
Yeah. So like I would be blind to myself of how I was or wasn't eating, thinking, oh yeah, I can make some improvements, but I didn't think what I was doing was bad per se. And like activity, okay, wasn't ideal, but my activity, my nutrition hasn't really changed over the years, yet my weight kept going up.
Yeah. And
I couldn't figure out why. And it was easier for me just to try to ignore it and avoid it than deal with it. Okay, we have to get the TV remote. Sorry for this.
No, it's fine. It's all good.
Can you find the TV remote? Is it on the table? Is the TV remote on the table, or do you need to go get grandmom to help? If it's on the table, you're next to the table. You can get it. There you go. Good job.
Not a problem whatsoever. I snapped into the microphone just for an audio marker for me, so I can cut
You
out
know
stuff.
address.
It's not a problem. It's really not a problem.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah, the nutrition stuff, I basically was blind to. I didn't let myself see where it was. And at one point, like the weight would of course come up every time you go to the doctor, whether it was for the sniffles or for a well check. No matter what the reason was, you always got a pamphlet with your printout of different things you can do to help focus on your weight and the BMI and all that, so they can mark down, yes, they consulted you on the weight. And I felt like it was always just shoved in my face that it was all about the weight, the number on the scale and stuff. It's like, I'm more than that. Yes, I'm big, but there's more to me than being big.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because like that's a common theme is no matter what you go to the doctor for, it always comes back to the obesity, and it's like,
oh yes. Like I even remember kind of jumping around for a little bit. I had to have a consultation once with a neurosurgeon, and one of the recommendations he made for my initial time I saw him was to lose weight. And I was barely able to walk. I had a cane. Mm-hmm. And I remember looking at him and telling him, like, I want to hit you with this cane if you tell me I have to lose weight. Right. Like, well, it's going to help take pressure off the joint. And he wasn't wrong, but it's like, I'm here for a herniated disc, and even though that can play into things, that's not the primary thing I felt like you should be focusing on.
I think I find that a lot of doctors, when they're dealing with heavier people, they focus on that first rather than the thing. Mm-hmm. Because yes, they're absolutely right, it would help alleviate pressure on the joints. However, what is the first thing that you would tell a skinny person with the same problems? Right, and
yeah, I mean, are you going to tell the skinny person you have to go eat a big sandwich and make it a double? Like you have to put weight on, and then we can address the pain and issues.
Yeah, you should go have a couple of Big Macs because it would help your energy level and help you exercise that area better.
Yeah,
that's never going to happen.
When you sit back, like hindsight, it does make sense that the weight is contributing to this. But there could be a better bedside manner approach on how to go about it. And like I've even shared on one of my videos at some points, like many times we've gotten told growing up, eat your fruits and veggies, like whether it's the Clean Plate Club or not, but either way, eat like your meals, don't pig out, move your body. But we never really got told, how do I do that?
Right.
Like how much fruit and veggies, how much movement. I personally couldn't do a lot of quick movement because I would have an asthma attack growing up.
Right.
So it's like, okay, how do I do these? And no one ever would explain how. And I didn't know enough to just say how. Like I didn't even know enough to ask the question.
Right.
How?
Well, and if you did ask that question of your doctor,
I would just got that same pamphlet that I always get.
Right. You would have thrown the doctor because the doctor's going, oh, wait, you want personalized information?
Wait, what?
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I agree with you on the bedside manner thing, too, because I think that, if that same doctor had said, so we're going to give you this to help with joint pain and we're going to have you do these leg exercises or whatever to kind of loosen up the joints. Yeah. Oh, and as an aside, if you happen to lose 5-10 pounds or whatever, that can also help alleviate the joint pain.
X amount of pounds of pressure off of that joint, which then help better with. And if you break it down like that, okay, I'm not going to want to hit you with my cane.
Right.
I might keep my cane to my side and listen to you a little better.
Yeah. Communication's everything, right? It's just,
So it always felt like it was a battle. And I remember by the time I was about 2021, I had my favorite job of all. I worked at the Disney store in our local mall. And this is right to the point where the Disney store is liquidated and closed I forget how many.
A
And of
lot.
course,
Yeah.
the one I was in was, of course, one of the ones on the chopping block. So I had to find something that I got benefits from because I needed benefits. And this was a part-time job that I had benefits through. So it's like, I need to find something.
Right.
So I actually got to the point where I was working a couple hours at Spencer's in the mall until I could find something else that had benefits. And then I found an overnight job at Turkey Hill. So I had the most cruddiest sleep imaginable
Yeah.
because excuse me, I would go from having about like a 4 or 5 hour shift at Spencer's to having about a 3 to 4 hour window before I had to get to my shift for Turkey Hill to work an 8 to 9 hour shift. And at the time when I got hired, I showed up for my interview for Turkey Hill and the manager wasn't there. That should have been my big red flag. Run,
Right.
don't stay here. But no, my silly behind showed up again saying, hey, I was supposed to have an interview. Well, it turns out that manager, for whatever reasons, was let go and a new manager came in. And because of the change of management, they had a big staff turnover and were desperate in need of individuals. And I was like, well, I want overnight and I want full time. And they were having a hard time finding anyone for that shift, let alone full time. And here I'm walking going, hey, take me.
Yeah.
And so I'd be working overnight, get done, have about 4 hours or so before I had to get up for my Spencer shift.
Oh. Yeah.
And I was working about 60 hours a week at Turkey Hill because we were so short staffed when I first got hired on. So I was very busy, lots of energy drinks, very little sleep, and my weight was coming off.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Not a great way for it to come off, but
yeah. I mean, and I didn't really view myself as changing my diet or changing my activity level. I was just doing what you got to do.
Right.
And I went from that 220 something down to 172. And I felt amazing. It was the first time ever in my grown up life being under 200 pounds. And I was just like, oh, like it was a whole new world.
Right.
And I enjoyed it. I loved it. I donated all of my fat clothes. Like, nope, I am good. And a few months later, I got pregnant with my daughter.
Yep.
And then I really wish I didn't throw out all those fat clothes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I went back up to the exact weight I was, plus half a pound.
Right.
By the time I had her.
Yeah.
And I had a bunch of people at work when I was still at Turkey Hill. She's not going to lose the weight. Nope. Watch, she's going to keep the weight on. Like, she's not going to lose the baby weight. Well, I now finally did lose the baby weight. Just so happens my babies are 12 and 14 years old right now.
Right.
But I finally managed it.
Yep. Wow. So that's quite the ride. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, that and my oldest was 7 months old when I found I was pregnant with my son.
Wow.
So it was not a big gap of time between them. And I was significantly ill with his pregnancy, where I actually spent the entire 3rd month of my pregnancy on Vicodin every 4 hours, every day for an entire month because of my gallbladder.
Wow. Okay.
And it was the point where I needed my gallbladder out, but it wasn't an ideal time in the pregnancy to do surgery. Apparently, the ideal time, according to these doctors and surgeons, is when you're in the 2nd trimester.
Huh.
I was in the 1st trimester. So we had to try to buy time.
Right.
Because that way it would be safer for this developing baby. I did have issues with my gallbladder when I was pregnant with my firstborn, but that came up near the ending of my pregnancy. And with diet, it helped kind of alleviate pain. And by the time I had her, it all cleared up.
Okay.
So this was a gestational thing. But with him, it came on right away, the beginning of the pregnancy. And I got to the point I could not keep anything food-wise down except for buttered bread. Why buttered bread? I do not know, but buttered bread was the only thing that seemed to agree with me. Otherwise, I was constantly in pain, on Vicodin, pregnant, throwing up bile, losing weight.
Mm-hmm.
I lost over 20 some pounds.
Wow.
During all of this, and they were hoping for me to get to 18 weeks along to get my gallbladder taken out. And during my checkups, I got to the point of I physically could not handle this pain anymore. I needed relief. I looked like a walking time bomb. Like, I looked like something was wrong. And they decided, okay, unless an emergency comes up, we will schedule you for 14 weeks 2 days. Well, 14 weeks, 2 days along, I got my gallbladder kicked out.
Okay.
It was full of gallstones, inflamed, and had an infection. And I was told I was actually lucky. And from once they saw it, that there would have been no way I would have made it to 18 weeks, that I would have had a rupture or an issue with my gallbladder.
Yeah.
And
then it's really not ideal.
Yeah. And even if for some miracle I could make it to 18 weeks, I would most likely be addicted to the Vicodin at that point because of how often I had to be on it. And I'm convinced that with this whole ordeal, that's why my son is special needs.
Okay.
Because all of this happened right at the very beginning of development of the pregnancy. Of course, no one can say for sure.
Sure.
And I don't blame myself. I don't blame him. I don't blame any spiritual being up in the sky. It's just, this is how life is.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling it's tied to that, just from how crazy everything was. But it took me until I was about 7.5 months pregnant with my son for me to finally regain the weight I had lost because of the gallbladder stuff. So I'd be about just shy of 7 months along. I look like I'm a big walking penguin of a whale waddling. And of course, you have some random person that has a lot of galls to them. How much have you gained? You never ask a pregnant person how much they gain. And whatever reason, this person thought it was a bright idea. And the face they had, though, was funny because I'd look at them, nothing. Like, what? No. Like, I looked big. No, there's no way. You had to have gained weight. No. I just finally regained what I had lost. So I was washed even right at that point. But I had to end up gaining 20 pounds with him. And I played the 200 plus game with my ever since. Like, I got down briefly. Like, I was around 238-ish when I had my son. So this was in 2011. And for that first year, I actually did join a gym. First time joining one. I did Zumba classes once a week and would then go play on the treadmill for a little bit after, but I never did anything else workout wise.
Right.
And I consulted with a nutritionist, but it felt like they wanted me to make too many changes that, that's just too extreme. So I just stuck with the Zumba and chasing my toddlers. And I got just shy of 200, but I didn't enter Wonderland.
Yep.
And then entered into being a single solo mom, being pretty much the parent with 2 actual children, and the partner seemed like a child themselves. Understood. And I just didn't have the time to do this anymore. I actually had a friend tell me I could go back to school with loans and grants. I'm like, wait, someone will pay for me to go to school? Okay, sign me up, because I loved school.
Yeah.
So the gym went out the window. And with that, the weight came right back on up. Yeah. Went to try to do school to go for nursing. I made it 1.5 semesters in the nursing program. But then it was just too stressful. I couldn't handle it anymore. I was going on 3 hours of sleep a night, 10 to 12 cups of coffee a day. And at this point in time, I stepped out of the nursing program. I had a course left. I could graduate with just an associate's general studies. So I graduate with an associate's in general studies and got an overnight job because that's the only time that could work with my kids. And so I was a home healthcare aide. Yep. Still surviving on about 3 to 4 hours of sleep. Jeez. And that 10 to 12 cups of coffee a day, plus my overnight shifts, I would take a double shot of espresso and pour it into my coffee that I was bringing with me on my way to Sheets to grab a bunch of food, on my way to my client's house to spend the night at the client's house, to get home, get my kids set and ready for daycare or school, and try to get a few hours of sleep before it was time for my kids to be home from school.
Right.
And rinse and repeat.
Oof. How long did that go on for?
At this point, it was early 2017 when I started the overnight job.
Yep.
Come late 2017, my weight was becoming an issue where my doctor actually was discussing my weight for once instead of just commenting it.
Right.
And
right.
this was actually your weight jumped like from 230s up to like the 250s within a couple of months for like no reason. So we tried running like, well, how's your food? How's your exercise? Nothing's changed. Okay, it's not going to be that. Well, let's look at labs. Let's check how your thyroid is, how your insulin, like how all these different things are.
Right.
And of course, they all came back fine.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, well, yay for that. I never officially had any issues like diabetes, thyroid, which both run in my family, at least on my dad's side. So I'm like, okay, at least it's not that, but what is it?
Yeah.
And so then we looked at, okay, well, what meds am I on? And at this point, I was put on a med to help me with pre-hypertension and with edema I had in my legs.
Okay.
And we were thinking, if anything, it was probably going to be that medication, though it shouldn't be, but that's only new. So let's just wean you off of it and see how things go. The weight should just naturally come down.
Right.
Sounds like a good idea. Weaned off of it. And this is where we get to some controversy. I was seeing someone at the time and birth control failed. So I did have another pregnancy. So the weight already started going right back up because of now having another pregnancy. And I was already high risk with my living children as it is. And now I'm older than I was then. And I'm a lot heavier than I was then. So I knew medically it just was not wise to carry. So I did go through termination.
Yep.
And because of all that stress with the body, we couldn't say for sure if it was the meds or not.
Right.
That added to the weight. And I sunk into a big depression. I already have depression and anxiety and PTSD to begin with. So it didn't help. And again, what did I say at the very beginning of this, or near the beginning of this? I was an emotional eater. I would overfeed or starve. So during the day, I'd stay busy, and late at night, kids are asleep. I'd come down to the kitchen and get a bowl full of Little Debbie's and little candies and go back up to my bed. And before I knew it, I blinked and something happened to all that food.
Yeah.
Or I would have the party size bag and there was only a party of one.
Yeah. That's a party.
Like I would find out, I would end up not knowing at the time. I would do a lot of absent-minded eating and boredom eating in addition to the extreme emotional overfeed starve.
Right.
And about half a year went by. We're now at the very beginning of 2018. And still seeing the same guy. At this point in time, I also have endometriosis.
Yep.
Every few years, we'd be changing up my birth control to try to find something to help with the endometriosis. Last chance I had was the IUD. And 3 months after I had it put in, it decided, you know what? I don't like you very much. And it decided to leave on its own.
Oh, geez. Okay.
So I'm going, what now?
Yeah.
And I went to see a surgeon to look into the possibility of getting my tubes removed.
Yeah.
So at least I have permanent birth control, because clearly 3 pregnancies, all of them were conceived from birth control that I took religiously.
Okay.
So the contraceptive part of it doesn't seem to work for me.
Right.
Well, I'm too young. I'm single. I might change my mind and all of this nonsense many women get. Thankfully, it wasn't like I had to have my boyfriend or husband's or someone's permission, but that would have just been icing on the cake. But because of the previous controversial, I had a history of abortion. So they agreed to do the surgery. I didn't care what they put down as the reason for why they agreed. They at least agreed.
Yeah.
I was in this state of, I don't give a F.
Right.
Like, here's my middle fingers. Just write whatever you have to write. Just do the thing.
This is what I want. Just whatever
like,
makes you feel better.
Yeah. Like, I've known since my son was born, I was done having kids.
Yeah.
And here I am in my 30s, medically, like, no, I'm done. A week before the surgery, the guy I was seeing raped me. And I got pregnant from that. Yep. We did not know, though, until after my surgery. It survived the surgery.
Holy cow. Okay.
So I named that one Houdini.
Yeah.
But be nice with the cat. Oops. But so that one, same thing. I went through the same choice, terminated. Actually had a subcutaneous hemorrhage surrounding majority of it. So it was already being threatened, basically, anyways.
Yep.
Let alone my high risk and everything. It's like nothing changed within the half a year.
Right.
So went through another termination, more stress with my body. At that point, I was 268. That was my heaviest ever.
Yeah.
And I just pretty much was autopilot zombie mommy, going through the motions, trying to get by, dealing with raising my kids, single parent, living in a multi-generational, busy, chaotic house. At this point, we knew my son was special needs. He has autism, anxiety, ADHD, and we actually just found out this past week that he also has intellectual disability.
Okay.
And my daughter has gotten diagnosed with ADHD. So I have neurospicy kids that I'm trying to raise, and I'm not neurospicy myself. So it's been a fun brain challenge for me to figure out how to understand how they operate, so that way I can help them. So I'm just going through the motions, and I'm on the back burner. I'm not Kirsten, I'm mommy.
Oh, sure.
Like, I say Chickadee and Squirt as the safe names for my kids. I'm Chickadee's mommy. I'm Squirt's mommy. I'm not Kirsten.
Right.
Like, whatever I know, you sacrifice for your kids. And I sacrificed anything and everything, including sleep, for the kids. And now we fast forward to more recent times. March 2022, last year. I don't know what possessed me, but something possessed me to step on a scale. And I saw 266 staring back at me. And that was my light bulb aha moment.
Yeah.
Of, holy nuts, something has to change. I got sad and mad.
Yep.
All at once.
Yep.
At myself. Mm-hmm. That I am 2 pounds away of where my heaviest was a handful of years ago. Something has to change. Otherwise, it's just going to keep on climbing.
Yep.
I'm pre-hypertensive. I'm having a hard time going up the effing stairs.
Yep.
My son is a known eloper, so I have to be able to literally chase after him if needed. And I'm getting winded from any little thing. Like, physically, I'm not okay.
Right.
Despite the fact that my lab work is all saying I'm fine and dandy, I'm not okay. Something has to change.
Yep.
I have to change. And that was the moment I decided I'm reclaiming my life. I don't know what I'm claiming, but I'm claiming it, darn it.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny. You and I have very similar beginnings in that, like, to what caused me to start is very much that sad and mad type thing, where I got frustrated. I said, I'm done. I'm just done. Like, I'm done doing this.
Like, it can't keep going this way.
And also, like, I'm the primary caregiver for my wife, who is disabled.
Yep.
And so we have to learn the hard way, put the mask on ourselves first, right? In order to help those that are under our care. No, because you're the caregiver.
Right. You can't be there for them. Like, they need you. So you do everything for them.
Right.
You don't realize you have to be able to be alive and breathe to take care of them.
Right. But my blood work was all fine. I've never
Yep.
been pre-diabetic.
Well,
I've had great cholesterol. I have high blood
never
pressure. That
the blood pressure I did have. I no longer have.
Well, and I might be gone with
But
that. I don't know yet because I go see
yep.
the doctor in March. But my blood pressure's gotten better. So yeah. So
Yeah.
in terms of blood work, like people are astounded, going, "You weren't diabetic or pre-diabetic?"
Nope.
Nope, I was fine.
No, never was. And we've tested that often because of the family history. And we have in my family, like my dad has it, his brother has it. I don't recall if his parents did, but I'm pretty sure they did.
Yep.
I know my dad has hypothyroidism. His mom had it.
Yep.
And she had passed with cancer. So it's like, okay, yeah, I feel like I'm pretty much like squared up to be first in line to get it.
Right.
No, but so that was my aha moment. I didn't make changes right away.
Yep.
But that's what I still say is the start of this journey, because I was starting in here figuring out, okay, how do I do this?
Yep.
What do I do? And I will admit, I did start with a supplement program that was an MLM, so I'm not going to share the name of it.
Sure.
But I started that not having the mindset that it was going to be the magic fix, but I viewed that it can help be my jump start and kind of help me buy time while I figure out what do I need to do.
Right.
And I was taking this, I was starting to get better sleep. Yay! I never knew what the sleep stuff was.
Right.
I mean, I'm surviving on 3 to 4 hours of sleep. That is really, 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 really not good.
Right.
So for once I'm sleeping. Oh, okay, cool. Like I feel like, okay, I can start doing this. And I started to lose some weight. I lost 10 pounds from March till about April, May of last year. And then I got to the point I couldn't afford this supplemental thing anymore. It's like, great, now what am I going to do? And this is when I started to actually look into the nutrition. Like I was already cut off doing like fast food and Sheets food.
Right.
But my style of cooking was you read the instructions on a box and stick it in a microwave. And then halfway through, you go and get the box back out of the trash to read what the second half of the time is.
Yep.
That was my cooking.
Yep.
And it doesn't help because of my neurospicy children, especially my younger one is extremely picky. So the three of us don't eat the same foods either. We have basically 3 separate meals at every meal. So it's like I didn't really know what this food cooking stuff was.
Yeah.
And I was finding myself on the nutritional side of TikTok.
Yep.
And found another fitness company, not naming names, but helped moderate with them. And I had a bunch of individuals coming to me once I started gaining more traction with my own weight loss and getting more nutritional understanding, looking into what are those weird calorie fat things that were on the back labels and actually understanding what they meant. And wait, there actually is a value that I should have for myself. And I clearly have not been in the value. I've been eating way above it.
Right.
And finally was starting to learn educationally about this stuff. And I also learned I messed up my liver enzymes with those supplements. That my liver enzymes got sky high come August of last year. My doctor looked at me and first thing out her mouth, "What'd you do?" And like, what do you mean what I do? And like, you had to have done something because nothing else is off, only these. So she knew it wasn't really leading to a condition, but something happened. And then we discovered we're pretty sure it's the supplements that I had taken.
Okay.
And okay, well, let's just focus in on our diet. And this is the first time I've ever had a doctor actually talk about diet and food with me. And she was recommending the DASH diet, basically like like a try to undo your hypertension, for lack of a better term, diet, generic. And it was kind of falling along with what I was already starting to do myself.
Right.
So we figured, okay, we'll stick with this and we'll redo your blood work.
Right.
And we'll just see how things go. And hopefully in time, the liver enzymes will get better.
Right.
And long story short, yeah, they did.
Yeah.
My liver enzymes are completely fine now.
Yep.
I am no longer pre-hypertensive. No longer have the edema issues. I am a lot more flexible. I mean, yeah, I still have issues with my back. I mean, I kind of skipped over part of that story. I did injure my back when I worked as the home healthcare aide.
Yep.
And then I found out in like 2020, 2021, I have a herniated disc in my low back where L5-S1 meet. And I should have surgery to fuse it. But my neurosurgeon, the one that I threatened with my cane, wants to hold off on surgery because of my age. Because he said otherwise, in about 5 to 7 years, we're going to be looking at fusing the spot right above it. Because it will take the load or the pressure.
Right.
And about 5 to 7 years, and we'll play dominoes up my back of fusing it. So for now, I do daily PT stretches on my own every single day because then my back is happy and it's willing to actually move and function.
Nice.
Which I appreciate because in a couple weeks, it will be 1 year since my last flare up with my back.
Yep.
So it's been a lot of trying to take care of my back, getting the nutrition in, looking at activity, though I'm limited. I have actual physical limitations because of the condition of my back, but I'm learning ways of how to modify around it.
Right.
And through all this, since I was having others coming to ask me for help and guidance on making sense of stuff, I'm like, you know what? Well, let me go through taking courses because this way I can better educate myself just for myself. And then I start toying with this idea of, wait, maybe I can also just be certified and I can actually like help others.
Right.
Because I felt like I was going at this alone, even though I was in a community. I felt like I was on the same level as everyone else was, that I felt like I was more ahead or more advanced. So I didn't have someone that was right in alignment with me during this journey and during these changes. I was down 80 pounds at this point.
Right.
And I was just like, okay, well, let me go through these courses and we'll just see what happens.
Right.
And so now I'm able to proudly say I've lost over 100 pounds. Awesome. My initial goal, again, I started at 266 on that day when the scale stared at me and made me feel all the feels.
Right.
My aim was to get to 161.
Okay.
Because in my head, 172 was what I was right before I got pregnant with my firstborn. And I felt really good in that body.
Sure.
I knew I still had improvements, but I felt good then. So my aim was, let me go a bit below that. Right. So that's where I got 161. And the initial amount would have been to lose 105 pounds.
Okay.
I officially have met my goal. And I now fluctuate between 160 and 162. And I've been now, in addition to losing my 105 pounds, I'm a behavior change specialist, certified nutrition coach, a weight loss specialist, and I've gone through what's called an REBT mindset life coach, basically going through your rational, emotional, behavioral therapy, showing basically there is a connection with your mind and the body.
That's weird. I don't know why that would be the case. Yeah.
But like your core beliefs and thoughts and the way you feel and react, you may not always be aware you're thinking and feeling and reacting these ways. But those are what dictate how we act, how we behave, which make our patterns and routines.
Right.
And of course, many of us have had issues. If you're at the 100-ish, give or take, to lose category, you have some issues with the patterns and habits that you form for one reason or the other.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, never. So like it kind of all ties it in. So I decide, okay, you know what? I'm going to go through making a business out of this. So I legit went and registered as a actual business. So I came up with Somatic Journey.
Okay.
Somatic, showing the mind and body connection.
Yep.
journey, but it does not have the E in it.
I saw that. Yeah.
Because even though we all have a similar journey, we are unique. Each of us have our own little tweaks and thing. Like the basics apply to everyone, but how we tweak them
Sure.
is to the individual. So I felt like having the E taken out of journey is a unique aspect of the journey that we will be on.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah, I mean, when people ask me about functionally how did you lose weight or how do you lose weight, the process is easy. It's not that difficult. It's the head that gets in the way and really complicates everything.
That's what I would say. It's like it's one of those easier said than done things. It's easy. Yeah. I'm not saying it's not challenging,
right?
But it is an easy on paper thing,
right?
Many are experts at losing. Many are experts at having the dedication. And you might think, oh, no, I don't have that dedication. Oh, no, yeah, you do. Yeah. You just don't have it in the direction you need it to go with your goals. So we just have to realign the sails and you will go in the direction you want. Right. And we need to change from being experts at losing to being experts at keeping it off. Yep. Which I feel like the mindset is the part many don't look at. And then once you do get to that point, how do you transition into maintenance?
Right. So how long have you been on maintenance now?
I've been slowly getting into maintenance since about August.
Okay.
I was actually just shy of meeting my 161 goal and felt like, you know what, I'm within a couple pounds. Logically, I know we fluctuate within a few pounds anyway. So, you know what, I'm just, even though it's not exactly 161, I'm just going to call it. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm going to transition into maintenance. And then while trying to bump my calories up for the first time in a long time, I then lost 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds and met my goal.
Yeah, which is awesome. Yep.
And now I'm fluctuating up and down from that 160, 162 window. And I'm still trying to find where my maintenance is, because this is a perfect example of you look up a TDEE calculator to get your estimate.
Right.
The calculator claims to maintain at this size, this height, this weight, and I'm 5'3", that I should be having 2,160 calories.
Yep.
Well, I've been slowly bumping up and incrementing up my calories that I'm now playing in the 2,300 to 2,400 window.
Yeah.
And I'm now starting to have it level out, that I'm now hanging more towards the 162 end, but I haven't climbed up past that.
Right.
So I'm not quite sure if this is now the final sweet spot yet, because you have to do trial and error.
Right.
It's all literally a science experiment with your body being the guinea pig.
Yeah, I find it that, and I'm not in maintenance yet, but I find that the idea of maintenance is feeling like it's going to be a more difficult challenge than, frankly, losing weight. Because losing weight is pretty straightforward, like in terms of like, here's kind of the direction you need to go in, and calorie deficit, you're good. But maintenance is a different beast altogether. And especially like, and because we've talked about this a little bit, from an activity level thing, I don't even know how to rate myself. Like it just, so what does that mean? Like, so
it can be very confusing, and it does in a way matter as to how you select it, because of how it affects the numbers.
Right.
Even though the numbers are all an estimate.
Right.
So it's like, okay, you do want to know what the number is, but at the same time, even if you are able to settle on a number, it doesn't mean that that's your number.
Right. And it's the same as the nutritional information on a package, right? Where it's like, cool, that's what the calories mean. Great. What does that mean to me? Like, right. So, yeah.
Or like another fun thing, like, okay, nutritional fact label shows this is your calories, this is the fats, carbs, protein. Okay, yeah, whatever all that means. Well, I now know, but then didn't know. Or the fact that I myself need to actually be careful on the volume of fat I have. Not saying that's bad.
Right.
But I need to be careful of how much I have, because I don't have a gallbladder.
Yep. Right.
I didn't know that. No one ever told me that.
Right.
Once I learned about that, I'm going, no wonder I have issues when I'm digesting certain types of foods. And
You mean that
it's like,
wasn't in the pamphlet that you got from the doctor?
no, not at all. That pamphlet was invisible and they forgot to tell me the magic word to make it magically appear.
Right, right.
So a lot of this, yeah, it was a lot of vague stuff. And it feels just going back to like the doctor of, yeah, eat your fruits and veggies and move around more. Okay, well, here's your guidance of how much to have.
Right.
Here's your vague information that we get to play trial and error with. And I'm now in the space where I've basically maintained so far. And I'm in the maintenance side of things now. And no one really seems to talk too much about what to do to maintain. It's always how to lose.
Right, right. Yeah,
You need to go in with that exit strategy. And I like to say, what you do to maintain, you do the same exact thing as what you did to lose. The only difference is your number.
Right, right.
The number of calories you're having, the number on a set of dumbbells or the plates you put on a barbell will change.
Yep.
Hopefully the numbers on your clothes change.
Right.
The only number that in theory shouldn't change is the one on the scale.
Right.
But that's the only part that should change. And I like doing the method of nothing is off limits. Everything is allowed.
Yep.
It's just the amount that you have to work and portion it. And you have to try to learn. It's not just a matter of, no, I can't have that. Oh, no, I can't have it. Nope.
Right.
You learn when to say yes.
Right. So, okay, I ask this of everybody. If you had one piece of advice that you could give to somebody just starting their weight loss journey, what would that piece of advice be?
Oh my goodness. And the fun part is I know that you asked this and I've listened to your podcast while I'm on my walks and I knew you were going to have me come on here at some point and I've been trying to think ever since. What would I answer? Because there's so many different things that it's like there's no one way, which I'm going to go off on a little mini spiel real quick with this answer.
Yep.
There's no right, wrong. There's no one way. It's not black and white.
Right.
I like to say that that's panda thinking. I don't like panda thinking. I like taking the black and white, mixing it into a happy, balanced gray. So we're going after the koalas of balance.
Okay.
But when we're trying to seek that balance, the biggest thing I think we need to remind ourselves, we are humans that are deserving of love and kindness from ourselves, not just others. A lot of the time, not saying it is exactly this for everyone, but especially when you have a more substantial amount to lose, you have a lot of emotional stuff that we've packed deep down in. Whether we really are aware of it or want to admit it or not is a whole different animal.
Right.
But we have a lot of emotional stuff, and usually a big part of it is not knowing how to handle the emotions and or not having love in the way that we should have or thought we should have or didn't feel like the right way, though again there's never a right wrong.
Right.
And from this we don't learn from when we were younger how to love ourselves.
Right.
How to value ourselves, how to treat ourselves with kindness. We treat everyone else with it, but we don't for ourselves. And I think a big part is to actually start with the mindset of treat yourself with the love and kindness you deserve. Give yourself permission to feel whatever you're feeling. You have to feel it to heal it. And while we're doing this, we are working on improving ourselves, valuing ourselves, prioritizing ourselves. And we're working from that mindset, connecting the meals, and our movements, which are the three big things I like to say for this journey is what we need for our pillars of wellness.
I think that's great.
It's a very long, weird spiel, but
I think it's great. I think it's great. I mean, I know that you and I, when we're in the Discord talking with folks, we're very like, how many times have you typed the words "grant yourself some grace"?
Yeah.
Right? It's just
you
because
have to. Like even when I was on this journey, I was near the ending of the losing part of my journey. When I even heard from someone else of like, treat yourself with love and kindness that you deserve because you deserve it. And it made me stop and think. It's like, wait, we've gone through whatever traumatic stuff. I mean, I didn't even share what my PTSD came from, but either way, it's like I had a lot of trauma stuff going through. Growing up, emotional abuse, mental abuse, the actual physical stuff that happened to me, plus what I did to me.
Yep.
And I never really let myself see that I was also abusing myself. I had to actually be aware of this, acknowledge it, own it, accept it, and try to learn to forgive myself.
Right.
And give myself permission that I can change. That's not me anymore. Right. And I actually have to break up with the old me to allow the new me to exist. And it's a whole weird mind fudging thing of a journey.
Right.
But ultimately, I think that's the biggest part. It's not just a matter of, I mean, yeah, you want to find something that's sustainable that you're going to do. You don't want the quick fixes, the temporary fixes, the empty promises, things that don't really get to the core. It's more of a band-aid versus the root issue. Like all of that, yeah, I can spiel about that all day long because that's my passion.
Right.
But the innermost work of treating yourself with the kindness, letting yourself love yourself, it will open up a lot and a lot of emotions. And if you have emotional eating issues, yes, it may not be easy, but you need to go through it. And you're not alone. There's always someone out there on a similar hiking trail, path, whatever you want to call it, of your journey. We all have the same journey, yet different journeys.
Right. Well, that sounds like as good a place as any to end it. Miss Kirsten, tell people where they can find you.
I'm primarily on TikTok. If you look up Kirsten.lifestyle coach, all one word. And for the record, for those that are listening, KIRSTEN, Kirsten.
Yep.
.lifestyle coach. You look up that, or you try looking up somatic journey, all one word without the E in journey. Either one of those should pull up a bunch of my videos. I do messages nearly every day, as well as being open for clients to help guide. My goal is I can be the shining light to shed light in the foggy confusion of diet culture and TikTok diet culture, with the ultimate goal that eventually we break up. You don't always need me.
Right. All
so
right.
If you want to break up with me, I'm available.
If you want to break up with me, I'm available. That's great. All right. Well, great. Thank you so much once again for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to people hearing your story. So
I do too. I'm hoping others get inspired, that they'll listen along while they're on their own walks, just like I do.
Right.
That's the biggest thing. Inspire, encourage, and empower.
Very cool. All right, I'm going to stop recording now.